I thought I would talk about this a little bit since I hadn't already, and I always knew that One Punch Man Season 3 was going to be terrible. I really did. Whenever I saw that, every single time I saw promotional material, it was just stills. It was just, the screen panning from one side to the other. It was just like characters flapping their lips. There was no actual action scenes, and it was just like still images. Back when they were doing promotional material and all these people were coping, and I was like, I don't know, man. Season 2 wasn't that great. JC staff, it was a downgrade, but people didn't want to believe that. They wanted to hold out hope. They wanted to cope. And I mean huffing that copium that One Punch Man Season 3 was going to be good. And I've seen so many videos on how it's absolutely been terrible. And I'm glad that I didn't waste any of my time watching it outside of a little bit of the first episode, and I was like, yeah, this is not it. I knew it was going to be bad, but it looks like it's worse than I even would have expected. And I know bad anime adaptations. As somebody who is a big fan of the beginning after the end, obviously the manhwa, it was pretty painful seeing how terrible the anime was. Literally some of the worst animation I've ever seen, and just still frames everywhere. The art direction wasn't even that great. But one thing that I can say for sure is that I wasn't holding out any hope that Studio ACAT would turn it around and start performing better. Which I don't want to put JC staff on the same level as ACAT, because obviously they've created some really good stuff, right? Whenever the next season of Railgun is, these guys are going to lock in and actually make a good anime. But I saw this tweet by Nicholas Light, and he's been catching a lot of hate for spreading too much negativity around One Punch Man and One Punch Man Season 3, the downgrade from Season 1 to Season 2 and now Season 3. And really, he's just a fan that is pointing out how terrible this is and how it's pretty unacceptable. And honestly, it gets to the point where something is so bad and everybody's hating on it that it would literally be better if you didn't even make the adaptation in the first place. Which is what I was thinking with the beginning after the end. Like, if it's going to be so terrible and low effort, then there's really no reason to even create it. But Nicholas Light says, I'm so sick of these people gaslighting and guilt-tripping fans. An animator on One Punch Man Season 3. And the animator had this to say: regarding One Punch Man, the criticisms, or rather the sheer volume of criticism from people watching illegally overseas, are overwhelming. The production team probably feels a lot of pain because of it. Everyone shares the same feeling. Nobody sets out to make a bad product, yet we get criticized for the smallest details. Where is our motivation supposed to go? I'll be blunt. In the next few weeks, something we poured our hearts and souls into will be aired. If people call it crap or a paper play, Kageshibai, limited animation, then so be it. But we pushed ourselves to the very limit. Please think about the creators behind the screen. We aren't doing this as volunteers. This is everyone's job. The more you bully us, the more the staff will disappear. Guaranteed. Animators for One Punch Man Season 3, acting like a victim, bro. These animators are shameless. And people in the replies, fans of the show that have been watching this garbage, know that that's bullshit. You can tell that this guy's making a seething vent post too, like overseas viewers watching it illegally. I'm just thinking to myself, why did this guy feel the need to point that out? Who says that the fans aren't watching the show legally? And who says that there's any difference between what the fans who are watching it legally and what the fans who are watching it illegally think about how dog shit the show is? And the replies are just tearing into that tone-deaf message trying to play the victim by the animator. Yeah, generally when I do a bad job at work, I get fired. The smallest details. And these are the types of small details that they're getting criticized for. I mean, honestly, guys, can you tell the difference? I know there's people out there that always try to defend bad animation with that gimmick of, oh, it's animated, so it's going to look different than a still frame. But these are both stills, one from the manga and then one from the anime, and the anime one looks way worse. It looks terrible, actually. Like, there's no way that you could say that this was a genuine effort to draw King properly, and he ends up looking this bad. What happened to this guy's jaw? He looks like a frail old man with sunken eyes in the anime version. They use so many stills in the anime and just pan from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, and yet somehow they managed to make it look worse than in the manga. These are the small details they're talking about. Literally all you had to do is draw the same image. This guy says watching illegally, Muse literally uploads it for free on YouTube, and I think that's only for people from Southeast Asian countries. But as you can see in this screenshot, it does exist. Muse Asia, you can watch One Punch Man Season 3 on YouTube. And here's a bunch of cope posting in the comments. Not even Muse can find a good frame to make the thumbnail. Dear billionaires who love anime, please save One Punch Man. This season doesn't even feel like anime anymore. This is heartbreaking. I didn't pay anything and I already want my money back. Saitama getting 5 seconds of screen time. I've waited more than 6 years waiting for Season 3 patiently, even without reading manga. Well, that was definitely a mistake. When I see how terribly this is performing and how, like, everybody says it's bad, unilaterally it's receiving a bunch of hate for the pretty horrible adaptation that this has been so far, it really begs the question of Why did Madhouse actually just give up on One Punch Man? I've heard, though, that they had a bunch of freelance animators working on the first season that they didn't really have access to anymore, so they just decided to pass it off. But I would think that for such a beloved series, there would be some studio that actually has the chops to make something good that would pick it up to animate it. But JC Staff, and I know JC Staff has made some good stuff before. Obviously, they animated both a certain magical index and a certain scientific railgun, with railgun seasons typically receiving more love from JC Staff, but this is a little bit sad to see, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I did enjoy the One Punch Man Season 1 all the way back in like 2015 when it came out, and it brought a lot of people into anime. So for those people out there who One Punch Man was their first anime and they thought it was amazing, it had some pretty incredible animation back in 2015, right? They're probably very disheartened to see how bad it's gotten, and I can understand that, right? I mean, I think that after reading the beginning after the end and seeing how terrible the anime adaptation was, it's just like, it's kind of deflating. And fans don't really want to be blamed for things that they don't have control over, because if they did, they would make something better. I'm sure that there are people who would literally draw stills for free that were better than the stills that were actually put into the final animation. Like, you could commission people who are just fans who want this to be good, and they would draw better still images than the ones that you see in the animation. Like that one with King side by side was just egregious. These are some more images of One Punch Man comparing the manga versus the anime, and it is just, it's lacking any kind of sauce, any kind of aura. There's nothing cool about this, right? I mean, again, cool fights, hype moments, aura, that's kind of the type of thing that you expect and you want from an anime like One Punch Man, and you're not getting any of that with One Punch Man Season 3. It literally just looks like a Temu version of the manga. I mean, these side-by-side comparisons are just sadness. This guy pointed out that this scene had 3 frames in the manga and 1 frame in the anime, and that's just pretty embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. And then you have the Gato slide where he's literally just a PNG sliding down the hill. Like, I get the animators don't want to be receiving a bunch of hate and they don't really feel good about all of this. I mean, probably, I don't know how much they actually care, but that's what one animator was apparently saying. But the fans aren't going to be guilt-tripped into feeling sorry for being upset at how terrible One Punch Man Season 3 has been, especially since they've been anticipating it for years and they just wanted the anime to be good. There's too much slop, there's too much low effort. There's no way you can say that you actually had a bunch of animators that had time that they specifically put into creating One Punch Man Season 3 for it to be this bad. And I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes in the anime industry and how it is that they procure workers to be able to work on this stuff, but I would have thought that they could get some more talent for something so beloved as One Punch Man, and I guess it just wasn't the case that they had anybody available that they could hire, and then you end up with something like this, one of the biggest pieces of crap that I've ever seen, and everybody's dunking on it. Like, I don't even have to say anything. Everybody's dunking on it. I've seen at least 2 moist critical videos talking about how terrible One Punch Man Season 3 is. And there's probably a lot more than 2, but I've seen 2. So to all the One Punch Man fans out there, you might as well just read the manga, man. Just give it up. Just read the manga. Like, it's not going to get better from here. It sucks, but sometimes that's just what happens. Like, there's literally seasonal isekai slop anime that are better animated than this One Punch Man Season 3 is. But hey, sometimes you just don't get the right people for the job, and there's really not much that you can do about it. But I will say again, if you're somebody who's waiting for years for an anime adaptation to come out for something and you don't want to read the source material, you might as well just read the source material if you're anticipating it so much and you don't even know if the animation is going to be good, especially if you can't trust that a really good studio is going to animate it. But anyway, there's still good anime coming out, just not One Punch Man.